In nomine nostri Satanae Luciferi excelsi, in nomine Domini Spiritus Mundi est, in domus Dei orem et ausium, in nomine Ordo Novus Seclorum, in nomine Satanae, Egio Satanus. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite dark sorcerer here. Now, I just completed a annotation act working with Cornersborg. Now, I probably just slaughtered that name. So, basically, Schoenersborg is a Slavic deitas known as the Dark God in Slavic Russian traditions. And basically is translated into being the vile or evil one. Okay. But further translation takes it into, depending on his spelling, takes him into being the dark god. Okay. Now, I've been reflecting the past year. I've been going out of the Celtic Golden Dawn tradition of practice and study for a year and then reflecting for a day. Now, over the last year, I've done a lot of studying within the Mazagera Cabal system. You know, I've worked with the Drelith. I've worked with the Witches of the Depths. I've worked with Sashira. I've worked with the Draconic. And I've worked with the Buried King himself, Zazazel. Now, I'm not going to get into the actual practices of what I've been doing with them because it has no relevance. What I can tell you is that I have been doing this stuff for almost a year now. It's been just about a year since I got my hands on the left-hand path. And then over the next 2 months, added on and added on and added on to all the books of the Mazagera Cabal system that was put out by Sumnus Dreadwood himself. Okay. Now, I find myself, the more I work with these beings, getting further and further away from the grimoire traditions of sorcery. I mean, as a necromancer and a traditional Satanist, I still work with the demons. I really do. I still work with them. They're, to me, the word demon or demon is literally translated into guardian. Now, over 3 decades, just about 3 decades, I've been working a lot with a lot of different demons, a lot of different fallen angels, or what is classified as fallen angels from various different traditions of sorcery. I've made a lot of pacts to which I have not broken any vows. Now, here, since I started this path working of the Mazagera, a lot of people have seen a difference within me, my demeanor, my teaching methods, my the way I present myself. And I didn't realize that I had changed that much over the last year, but apparently, from what I understand, I have. But like I said, I've been really getting away from the grimoire traditions of of the grimoires and stuff like that, and I've been really delving into the actual practices and the arts. I've been working very, very heavily with the Witches of the Depths and all the ones I just named off, and what I've talked about in past videos. Tonight, I felt like it was time to take it a step further and call upon the Dark God himself. And I made a pact with him. And that was in my last video. And I know a lot of you that watched it couldn't hear anything, and that's because I had the sound turned way down. And that's because it was a personal dedication and pact working between me and him. But I like to show him from time to time so that it shows people what a ritual is, what a dedication is, and what a practice is, and what takes place during. In this case, I actually burned the seal. Okay. Now I can always redraw that and keep it on my altar like I've done all the others. Okay. And this is because of the fact it's a good reminder of your end of the bargain. Consider it a Faustian bargain. Okay. Faustian deal. So in one aspect, you've sent it to the Blighting Lords or to the beings that you have chosen to work with. And on the other hand, you are sending the same thing to them. So you have one as a reminder and one that you have sent to them to add to their library, their collection of packs and deals. Okay. And like I said, I felt like it was time to get in touch with this get in touch with the dark god because of the fact it's been calling me. The every time I pick up one of the books, the three things that keep coming to mind is the grimoire that was given to the founder of the Mazajira. That is number one. Number two is Shishira. Okay. I guess you can call him the warlock because he's a solo practitioner. He's a solitary practitioner, completely dedicated to the arts, much like a hermit and the Hierophant and the sorcerer, the magician. But I've also been really working hard with the getting to know and to summon and practice with the witches of the depths, who are also completely dedicated to sorcery and magic. With them, it's more about power, and I think, and more so, I feel connected to them, which is probably why I've been going through the towers from the Tower of Crescent, the Tower of Umbra, the um, the Tower of Stars. The necromantic practices that deal with black magic, necromancy, you know, poisons, herbs, herbalism, stuff like that, and getting into higher magics. And finally, the Tower of the Iron Throne, which is Cornelbog's personal tower. And because he's been on my mind and because of this aspect of the grimoire, I'm really fascinated with what's in the grimoire. I want to know what's in that grimoire. And I'd like to have, a copy of it so that I can practice it and meditate on it for me, you know, because the history and the knowledge of the actual practices is what fascinates me. It speaks to me on a personal level. And because I'm always expanding my horizons and I'm always trying to get to the truth through into tedious and extensive research going back hundreds of years through history, going from source to source to source. You know, it's something that each individual must decide for themselves on how far they're willing to take the sorcery and how well they're, how far they're willing to evolve. You know, the Black Scriptures put out by Seminist Redwood basically describes the soul. The mastery of the soul is more potent than any grimoire tradition. So the only way for a soul to die is if it wishes to die or a more potent soul comes along to destroy it. So it's, there's a lot that goes into it, but like I said, the evolution for me is knowledge and power. It always has been, but it's more about growth through wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So, I mean, you always have to start within yourself. I was talking with a coworker earlier tonight when I was at work, and you know how that whole drama fest goes there between relationships, but something that kind of sparked my interest and it kind of got my own attention when I said it to her is a man who does not learn from history is doomed to repeat it. And most importantly, you can lead a horse to water. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. Okay. So, I mean, seeing this aspect that I spoke on, which actually made her laugh, but still, it was funny because of the fact that I started thinking about this while I was sitting there drinking my coffee, waiting for her to get off work because I didn't know if she was going to need a ride home or not. So I was sitting there and I was listening to YouTube music, music videos, and I was contemplating everything I've been doing. And, I had everything just about in order. I already had his seal drawn up and placed on my altar for the day while I was at work. And it just felt right to do this tonight. I don't know why, it just felt that way. So I did it. Actions speak louder than words, and actions with words really go a long way. Now, I've practiced a lot of things over the years, and I've never come across something so potent as the Mazajera Cabal system. And the reason for that is because it goes back to the old, old world. Everything from the Dralith to the Sith, the Sidi, um, to Cornersbog, to the Draconic, all seem to go back to the ancient traditions of the Indo-European traditions. This is ranging from the Welsh, the Irish, the Norse, Anglo-Saxon, the ancient Gaelic traditions, Germanic traditions, European traditions, and going all the way. And the main thing that caught my attention is, that old expression is from The Godfather, when I'm just getting out and they drag me back in, and it's really fascinating because I found myself right back into Slavic witchcraft traditions. And this is why. Going into the Witches of the Depths, going into the Dralith, the Sidi, their mythology is really put out there within those traditions, and they seem to have reference to other beings within the Slavic tradition. Think of Baba Yaga, in Russian tradition. It's like the boogeyman type thing to get children to do their homework and to do their chores. They're brought up in believing that this being will come for them. Kind of like an evil witch in folklore. Plus, the European draconic that I saw in a vision led me right back into European tradition. So everything seems to be going back into this the Fey folklore. So the more I've been delving into the Fey folklore and getting into these old truths, it keeps leading me back into Russian traditions. And I'm wondering why. And then a friend of mine on Facebook pointed out that maybe I may have a lineage there that I wasn't previously aware of. Either on my mother's side of the family or my father's. So now I've got to get in touch with them and figure out where this connection lies. And it's really interesting to see the connections and the dots, okay, of where everything's going and how it's connecting and how it's coming together. So when I started thinking about Corners Bog, I was thinking back of a a post that VK Johannem had done that um, a brother of mine had shared with me. Now, personally, I don't follow the guy anymore. I don't have anything to do with the guy, you know, but I've got nothing against the guy either. So just putting that out there right now so that there's no misunderstanding. But it's a very well written 2-page document on the belief structure of Colonel Bog. Okay. So I've been reading down through that. I've been going through the Black Scriptures. I've been going through Profane Seals. And I've really been delving into the history and the mythology. And a lot of this, like I said, goes right back into Slavic traditions, where his name is spelled Chernobog. Okay. And you can Google that name to do your own research into him. Okay. And it's funny because I found a lot of references to an ancient being that was known as the Dark Lord, the Dark God, also referred to as the Vile or Evil One. You know, and I also found a link that showed his polar opposite, which I thought was pretty cool because then you get to study how he's considered the Dark God versus this other being. And what's interesting to note is that while I was doing research on these two beings, I was actually thinking of something that Asenath Mason put forth. Now, those of you who are not familiar with her work, she is I guess you can call her a demonolatress. She's a sorceress, and I would go as far as saying that she's a Luciferian. That I would dare to say that. Okay. She's put out quite a few books, and one of them was The Rights of Lucifer, and one other book um, that dealt, I believe it was called The Draconic or Draconian, okay, magic or something to that effect. And while I was reading down through it, she spoke of an ancient Greek brothers, the day star and the dark star. Phosphoros being the day star, much in the same way as Lucifer, okay, compared to, say, Zazazel, okay, the dark star, okay, which was actually pronounced Hesperos. All right. So I really found that very fascinating because I started thinking about this and I started going back into the historical accounts, connecting all these beings that were considered day star associated with the sun and light versus that of, say, disease and darkness and chaos type aspects. Kind of like Marduk and Tiamat in the Necronomicon, or Belial and Michael in the Scroll of Amram from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, so there's a lot of things that were kind of like the dual opposites. So I found it very fascinating to see, Kurnisbog being referenced to the dark god in the Slavic and Russian traditions of sorcery compared to his polar opposite. You know, so I mean, I've decided to delve more into Russian sorcery and to see their traditions of magic, and I've actually found several books on Amazon and eBay that seem prominent, within the deitas, the beings of the Fey world versus, or the gods that they have called upon over the centuries. Within I guess you can call it a college educational type book. All right, type of books, much like say for example, the Munich manuscripts, the 15th century manual for necromancers by Kekefer, you know, or that of spiritual conjurations, which was another awesome good book. You know, Ritual Magic by Elizabeth M. Butler, spelled with one T, not two. And I mean, there's a lot of good books out there, but a lot of them are kind of childish in writing. So you really have to discern what's worthy and what's not. So I mean, when it lines up with mythology and history, you got to get it and you got to delve into it. So I mean, I've been delving into Lucifer Raphael's book on necromancy, the forbidden arts. That of Christian Days, the Witch's Book of the Dead, and I've really been delving into Sorceress Cagliostro's the Bible, the Blood Bible, Sorcery Bible, Volume 1 and 2 by Sorceress Cagliostro, the Necromancer, and I've really been delving into these old folkloric traditions within the Fey world because the more I get into it, a lot of it is lining up with the Fey. The Fey traditions, the Celtic and Irish traditions, the Germanic and Indo-European, Slavic traditions of sorcery. So it's like, you know what? Let's see where this goes. So now here's another one, Cornersburg, like I said. So I'm delving into that to see where it goes. But more, and I ended up with like 2 or 3 pages just on him alone. And that's just research. Now I'm actually getting into actual practices and rites with him to see where that's going. But not just working with the lords of the lords and ladies and servitors of the Mazajira. No, I'm also working currently this month with the sixth entity from the original 7 lords of the underworld, the princes. Leviathan, also known as Lord of Envy and ruler of February. So, I mean, I've been working with the Lords of Sin as well. So, I mean, seeing where all these beings seem to be taking me is very, very interesting. So, you got to remember to really do your own research within them and to expand your horizons. You can't just stick to one philosophy or one tradition. You have to really branch out into the regions of the world. And that's the one thing I've actually learned over 30 years of practice. So, I mean, I'm now on my 30th year, literally 30th year of practice within sorcery. So, I'm very excited to work with Kronosborg and the other, lords and ladies that are of Caractes and the Mazajira that I'm getting into. So, but like I said, I'm not going to get into practice, and I'm definitely not going to get into my independent workings. You can view it, but that's as far as it goes. You're not going to hear it. You're not going to understand what's going on unless you follow it. So, but I am going to be showing the historical accounts and stuff like that through my research and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. Lowland here just posted the Fae don't really care about national boundaries. And that I can actually concur with because my own studies within any form of system really has a lot of connections with other systems that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's only mankind's stupidity that aligns them with in a adversity encampment. You know, think of it as the slave mentality of encampments and divisions. That's the mundane for you. You know, people that want to stick to one tradition, claiming they're right, that everybody else is wrong. You know, the whole drama fest. You know, who's the latest political upheaval? You know, the latest sports. Who's doing what? You know, the relationship. You know, yada yada yadas. That's all mundane. Okay. I don't give two shits about who the next pope is going to be. I don't care what the pope's doing. I don't care what Trump is doing. Okay. I don't give two shits about what the mundane world is doing. Okay. For me, it is all about sorcery. Okay. It's all about the magic. All right. And I know there's a few others that are out there just like me. Okay. And the thing is that those who really want to grow and those who really want to evolve into master things, they're not going to allow themselves to be drug into the mundane stupidity. They're going to prove it through their own works. They're going to prove it through their own studies and practices and what they generate from material. Okay. This is what people are going to see. This is what attracts the future sorcerer, magi and sages, okay? The next witches and warlocks. And that's the thing that a lot of people today don't understand because they don't want to evolve. They don't want to learn. They have no interest in evolving through evolution of self. So let them just die off. That's the way I look at it. Those who want to evolve, those who want to learn and study and to master things, those are who I pay attention to. Okay. So really delve into that stuff. Like I said, the books I've been going out of lately are The Black Scriptures, Profane Seals, Eye of the Oracle, and Spheres of Devastation. And these are all by Sumnus Dreadwood. Okay. In fact, I would recommend all of Sumnus Dreadwood's books because you learn quite a bit. And when you delve into the rituals and stuff and start calling on these beings, you're going to see a huge difference of those from the Forgotten Realms compared to those that are more known today of the lesser realms like Hell and the different encampment, this different groups of beings like the seven Olympic spirits or the nine gatekeepers, the nine infernal kings, the beings of the inner court, the 36 deacons of destruction, you know, the seven princes of the air, crown princes of the air from the sixth and seventh books of Moses, to the four archdemons, of the four corners, the cardinal directions to, because there's a lot of grimoires that speak on different ones. So you really have to discern for yourself on which one's true and which one's not. And again, that goes into mythology and history. Do they align? And if they do, then delve further into them. All right. Now, with that said, I hope this has been educational. I hope it's been enlightening. I want to thank everybody um, who have made an appearance here. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to message me here or on Facebook Messenger, okay? Even on Facebook, because I will reply. It may take some time on Messenger because I don't always look at the second page where all the newcomers seem to appear. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, um, and you welcome salute to 367. All right, so have a good night, and until next time, Agios Satanas, Hail Zazazel, and until next time.